Welcome back to Careers at the End of the World. I'm your host, Jen Walker-Wall, and I'm here to wrap up this series on developing your own professional ecosystem, here to wrap up 2024. This year went by so quickly, and I feel like I knew that it would. The older I get, the faster years go. I don't know if this is a universal experience, but it's my experience. So it's like years used to last forever. And now you blink and you miss them. I just want to thank everyone who spent time with me this year, either in our workshops, webinars, listening to this podcast, clients who worked with me, former clients who sent clients my way this year. Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping work wonders in your professional ecosystem. I really, really, truly appreciate it. I love hearing from your friends and husbands and brothers and cousins and all the people that you send my way. I really appreciate it. And I quite frankly could not do this without your referrals. So thank you so much. I don't know what 2025 has in store for us. I'm not ready to really think too much about that right now, but I am very grateful for the opportunity to spend my time working with so many thoughtful, smart, funny, fun, brilliant people. Like, truly, what a joy. One of the greatest things about self-employment, I say this all the time, is getting to choose who you work with. And I just get to work with like the best people so consistently and with so few exceptions. I feel like I could pinch myself. So honestly, thank you for being a part of that. I do really, really appreciate it. And today I want to talk about some quick, easy ways you can sort of operationalize the development of your professional ecosystem. It could be really helpful to just picture your dream professional ecosystem. For me, this includes like obviously all the cool clients I get to work with. I have a tremendous network of self-employed folks that I get to see and meet each month, some of whom I've been meeting for years at a time. I also have a team. I get to bug them for help and assistance when I'm faced with a challenge. My dream professional ecosystem looks like growing all of those categories, really, like just having more smart, fun, cool people around, familiar with my business and my goals, and taking advantage of the things that we offer. But think about what that might look like for you. Who do you want in your corner? Who do you want more of? Think about it that way. Are you someone looking for mentorship? Are you someone looking for peers? Are you switching fields and it's going to be a good idea to invest in connections in an area that's very different than where you've worked previously? You get to decide what your professional ecosystem looks like. What I'm going to offer today are some tactical ways to make operationalizing it a little bit easier. And I'm going to start by saying something really obvious. And I know I can almost hear people's eyes rolling from here. But the first thing I want to say is that LinkedIn is really, really helpful for managing, nurturing, and developing relationships. The vast majority of my clients feel about LinkedIn the way they feel about networking, which is they'd rather not. And I get it. I did a whole episode on resistance to networking, so I get it. I think a lot of these apply to LinkedIn. But I want to tell you what I do on LinkedIn that makes it so useful. Because again, I want you just to remind everyone, I'm an introvert. If I can type and have that count as an interaction, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take full advantage of the tools because A, my calendar is pretty booked with clients, and B, also talking all the time is hard for me. So I love using LinkedIn. And quite frankly, I think you could use another social media platform. LinkedIn makes the most sense for me. I am a career coach, but you might be in gaming and maybe all of you are on Twitter or Reddit or I don't know, wherever you might be. Using a tool to stay in touch and to stay top of mind is really, really useful. So I just want to share some of the ways I use LinkedIn, I think a little differently than some of my clients are, or at least when they start working with us. We try to get them in this direction here. So the first thing is I try to pay attention to the prompts that LinkedIn provides. So when LinkedIn tells me so-and-so had a work anniversary or so-and-so had a birthday, I don't respond to those for everyone. But if I know the person, I use it. And instead of using the little like default messages, I write an on-purpose tailor custom message. And it's very short. Like, it doesn't take long to wish someone a happy birthday, but I always do those prompts when it's someone I want in my professional ecosystem. Now, I can say with certainty, not everyone on LinkedIn is a part of my professional ecosystem, at least in a real way. I don't know where I met some of those people. I don't know who a lot of them are. A lot of people connect with me after I do workshops or speaking engagements, and so I didn't necessarily meet these people one-to-one. So when I do know them, when I do have some kind of relationship with them, I use the LinkedIn prompts. I find them extraordinarily helpful, and they're easy. So I use them. The other thing I do on LinkedIn is I try to really craft a feed experience that I enjoy. It's come to my attention that people don't do this, but a few years ago, in fact, probably 2020, 21, I really went through all of my LinkedIn and I paid attention to like what I was seeing. And I didn't love my feed. I was doing what a lot of you are doing, which is like log in, scroll, log off. And I was like, well, how could I make this an experience that like I actually want to engage with? So I did a few things. I followed a bunch of organizations, businesses, professional development group pages. I followed people who I thought were interesting and doing interesting content so that when I logged in, my feed looked like it reflected my interests. If I want to see more of something or someone, I engage with that content. I linger over it. I like it. I try to always like it because I get what I get what the algorithms are like. And I try to reinforce to the platform, like, more of this, please. I also follow so many different organizations that are really not going to be useful for me. Like, I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to be going to like engineer networking events, but my clients might. And my referral partners might. So I'll follow groups that wouldn't necessarily have programming for me, but might have programming or opportunities for the people in my network, including people that I have in my ecosystem that I'm actively trying to maintain. And what this allows me to do sometimes is forward an event invitation to someone I haven't talked to in like 6 months and just say, hey, I saw this and thought it would be right up your alley. Hope you're doing well. Or I'll see a call to action, like someone will be like, hey, we're looking for speakers on X, Y, and Z. Any suggestions? And I will be like, you should talk to so-and-so. I'll tag them. And so this is one of the small but mighty ways that I stay in touch with people. This is a touch point so that the people who have invested and poured into me know that it is being reciprocated. I'm doing the work of keeping these people top of mind in my own mind, not just trying to be top of their mind, and putting their names forward for different opportunities. If you're logging into LinkedIn, scrolling, and logging off without doing much, I want to suggest that there's a better way to use LinkedIn, okay, to help you foster those relationships. Another great thing about LinkedIn, because I talk to so many people who don't want to publicly engage on LinkedIn, don't want to comment, don't want to create content, which is fine. The vast majority of job seekers like really don't need that. Use the message function. You can very easily turn a job posting into a message and say, hey, this looks like something you'd be interested in. Hope you're doing great. Have a great weekend. Like, it's very easy to operationalize your LinkedIn feed in service to your goals, but it requires that you be clear about what your goals are and that you do some work to think about like, well, how do I stay in touch with these people? So that's how I use LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn as a way to foster the work I'm doing outside of LinkedIn to manage relationships, to pour into relationships, and to keep those channels open, even among people I don't talk to on a regular basis. If you're taking all this in and you're like, okay, yes, you're right, I have a lot of resistance to this. Okay, I hear you. Like, I'll make space for these relationships, but you're still feeling like, I don't know where to get started, or this feels like really intimidating, I'd love to encourage you to start with who you know. Start as easy as you possibly can. Sometimes this just looks like sending your best friend a sample job posting or two that reflects your target jobs so that someone in your network is better educated on what you're looking for. Sometimes this starts by reaching out to your last work BFF that you just haven't spoken to in a while. Start where it's easy. And start with people you know. This isn't simply an exercise in meeting as many people as possible. You can start with people you know. You can start by reconnecting with someone from your last job. You can start with reconnecting with people you talk to on a regular basis and just share a little professional news. So if this feels a little overwhelming, start with where it's easy. Build the muscle over time. One of the smartest things you can do when you actually get to have these conversations with people and you're meeting people, whether it's in like a networking event or it's a one-on-one informational interview, is to ask if there's anyone in their network that they suggest you speak with. Do they know anyone else who knows about X, whatever X might be for you? I think this is one of the smartest things that you can ask. It's a good way to build some kind of organic follow-up, and you just don't know who they know. It might even be worthwhile to look at their network ahead of time, but at the very least, what you can do is ask for an introduction. Ask if there's anyone else in their network that knows about X or that could speak to you about Y, right? Like that is going to be a really good way to kind of snowball. If you only have one person who responds, maybe you can turn it into two simply by asking if they know of anyone else that you should speak with. Last week, I talked a little bit about proactive versus reactive networking. And here's how I define this because I completely made this up. And this is like my own conceptualization of networking. Reactive networking is networking that happens once a job is posted. So if you know someone who works at, X organization and you see a job posted there and you reach out, that would be considered reactive networking. Versus if you see someone at X organization and you don't see any current job postings that are a great fit, but you'd still like to talk to them, I consider that proactive networking. The reason I distinguish those two things from the hiring perspective, I experienced two different things in those two different scenarios. When a job is posted, and this is especially true in a market like this, okay, when a job is posted, there's going to be a lot of reactive networking. There's going to be a lot of people reaching out to someone they know, to someone at the organization, to someone who works in HR. A lot of times job postings obviously attract interest, right? From people who are curious about the job, who want the job. And so while I don't think one is good and one is bad, I think there's often a lot more volume that can actually be difficult to accommodate once the job is posted. Proactive networking is about establishing connections. It is not really job-based. It's trusting that at some point there'll be a job you could be a good fit for and having this time, these conversations, and learning from people in the meantime. And the benefit to that I see is that people sometimes have greater capacity to have these conversations when there isn't an active requisition open for a job. Because again, the reactivity of it means there's probably more than one person looking to network because of that job that's posted. But being proactive, there's less of that. There's less competition in the proactive realm. I'm not saying this to get you to stop networking when a job is posted and to find a referral or have a conversation or do what you can to get your resume seen. But what I am suggesting is that a proactive approach is also very strong, and it might be easier. It might be easier to execute because a lot of people try to network reactively and they're just not getting a response or their schedules aren't lining up. If you can plan to have some of those relationships ahead of time, that can be really useful. And there's less competition when there's no active job posting, typically. So I don't necessarily see this as an either or. I think some combination of this work can be really fruitful. If you're doing all reactive networking, which I think a lot of job seekers are doing in this market, I would try to do some proactive work. I do think that that's really the most useful. There isn't a job at stake. You don't have to worry about, am I a perfect fit for this job or not? You can just really make a stronger case for your strengths without having to sell yourself. So both are good. And in combination, I think they're strongest. I personally have a library of templates, of templated pre-written messages based on different goals. I do pitch workshop partnerships. So you'll probably notice that I have worked with tech ladies. I worked with creative mornings. I've worked with dozens of professional development groups over the years. And I show up and I deliver, a webinar to their people. And then I often get clients from that work. It's very, very reliable for me that when I present, it drives business for me. And I have a lot of templates that are pre-written and designed to help forge those kinds of partnerships. They're concise, they get tailored and massaged for each person they get sent to, but having those pre-written messages is really, really helpful because it means that I don't have to have an existential crisis before I hit send. I just have to like change the name, rearrange some things, and like hit send. We have a WorkWords library with like over 250 prompts, templates, and scripts for our clients and community members. And we have some of those templates there. So you can take them and you can rework them and make them yours. But I think that's so helpful because you don't have to stare at like a blank email, blank page. You can just take some language that already exists and personalize it when you're doing your outreach. One of the things, and we actually just talked about this in one of our office hours calls, is about a follow-up strategy. So what happens if you're sending these emails, these carefully crafted, templated, but personalized messages to folks in your network and beyond, and you are trying to have a conversation or connection point with these folks and they're not getting back to you? What do you do? I always encourage people to have a follow-up strategy ready to go. So for me, assuming I really, really, really want to connect with this person, I have like a 3 email process. So for me, I'll send the initial one. 2 weeks later, I'll follow up and I'll say something along the lines of like, just bringing this to the top of your inbox, And then I'll send another one probably a month after that, just saying, this is obviously not a good time to connect, no problem. Like I'll follow back up in a few months and hope that we can find some time then. Enjoy your summer, enjoy your holidays, take care, hope you're well. Love, Jen. You get the vibes, right? So having a follow-up strategy is important. And as I said to our community members, like it puts me in control of the conversation, right? And so what happens sometimes when people don't respond to my emails is that I run into them. I run into them because they're in my ecosystem. And I decided when this first started happening that like I didn't want it to be awkward on my end. So by closing the loop and having that follow-up strategy, it gets us both off the hook. And so people now will say something like, thank you so much. I appreciated you reaching out and I'd love to talk when I have the capacity to, or I meant to follow up. I'm so sorry I didn't. My kid had COVID. There's reasonable things that prevent people from responding to our requests. So having that follow-up strategy, it doesn't have to be like mine. And to be honest, I don't really follow up with everyone. Especially like in this scenario that I'm sharing where I'm pitching workshop partnerships, my calendar often fills before I have the chance to like do this follow-up strategy. So I know that I just have to send enough initial emails and I don't always have to do a ton of follow-up. So just something to keep in mind is you don't have to follow up if you're not fervently trying to get in touch with a person. But it does help, especially that second message of like just bringing this to the top of your inbox. I'm sure you're super busy, but I wanted to make sure you saw this. I think that that's really helpful. And then because it is a small world, even and especially when you're doing a lot of network online, I cross paths with some people that I'm trying to reach out to. So closing the loop just makes me feel better about those interactions. Over the last couple of years, I've had way more people come to me and say, what is a stable career choice that I can make? They see the instability in the job market. They see the tsunami of instability coming our way in 2025. I always have such a hard time answering this because I don't know the answer to that question. I'm obsessed with career coaches who seem to know everything about how this world's going to play out, but I don't want to pretend to be one of those people. I don't know, but I share your concern that things feel unstable. And as a self-employed person, I can tell you that investing time in people, in relationships, has never been wasteful for me. It has always been fruitful. It helps me stay top of mind. It helps me learn of new opportunities. I have gotten private clients. I've gotten community members who sign up for my programs. I have gotten contract freelance work through my network. So this is an element to me of stability. If you are someone either thinking about transitioning into like a fractional role or some kind of self-employment and consulting, or you do want to be in a full-time job, like if you're somewhere in the gray area between a full-time job and being self-employed, I think relationships are even more important because they help bring work opportunities to us, all kinds of work opportunities. So for me, this is part of my stability recession, end of the world career plan is to not just be invested in organizations, but to be invested in people, to share resources, share opportunities, put in a good word for people, do what I can, because I just find that when I really get into the groove of that, like it just comes back tenfold. I hope that this has inspired you to really think about how you can develop a professional ecosystem for yourself in a way that feels easy, actionable, fruitful, because to me, this is everything. Relationships are not easy, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that like a little can't go a long way. So create some space. Think about what you have to offer. Think about what you could really benefit from. Do a little research to figure out where that might be, and then come up with a plan to do it, okay? Your plan does not need to look like everyone else's plan. So choose something that makes sense for you. And if you are a client and you are a community member, then well, let me know and we'll help you come up with one and shape this in a way that is easy to implement and practical based on your goals and capacity. If you haven't yet joined our group on LinkedIn, please keep an eye on our December emails. The invitation is open to our email subscribers, former clients, former community members. And it's a way for you all to connect with one another based on your affiliation with us. It is not open to the public, so I don't have like a direct invite link, but it is open to anyone who's worked with us previously, anyone who's working with us currently, and anyone on our email list. If that's you, keep an eye on our email for the month of December, and we'll send you an invite. I also want to share on behalf of the whole Work Wonders team that we hope you have a really happy, restful, restorative holiday season. We've already got some content in the works that I'm very excited about, and I really hope that you maybe take advantage of some downtime to do something good for your career, but also rest is good. Rest is good too. I want to thank you again for being a part of our ecosystem, for the people and friends you send our way, for your time and trust. I just really, really appreciate you being here and listening week after week. We'll be back next month. We're taking some time off and we'll be back. We'll be back in early to mid-January, and I can't wait because we've got a lot more in store. So happy holidays from me and the Work Wonders team, and we'll see you in 2025.